Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read it for your entertainment. Now, you'll see that the earphones have changed. We got the nice, fancy new ones in. Should be less noticeable. Definitely an improvement in quality. So, it'll help with the narrating a bit, I think. Anyways, today's story is called Human Reinforcements, written by Rosie013. Colonel Tanet Ep Mockney reread the missive, then read the message from the command a third time. What the hell's were command playing at? Humans, he said under his breath to his waiting second. The poor bastard blanched, making an effort and failing to avoid scrunching up his face at the word, the name, the curse. The whole command tent went from a quiet buzz of activity to near silence as the word spread. In any other situation, long-awaited reinforcements would be a cause for cheer and relief, Colonel Tanet Mockney thought. But no one in their right mind wanted to deal with human brutes. His mind went back to his interspecies training, recalling the only advice anyone could offer a junior officer when dealing with the butt of all jerks. Point at the enemy, don't leave unsupervised, don't expect to give them orders. That was it. That was the full official training documentation on humans. Fortunately, the rumor mill generated the rest of the picture. Apparently, they were brutal but cunning apes, best used like a blunt hammer. Like most other officers rising through the ranks, Tanet Mockney had made good on advice by simply avoiding humans where possible, which wasn't all that hard, really. They came from one small backwater system and only in small numbers at the time. If the current situation wasn't so dire, he would have demanded command redeploy them elsewhere. But the situation was desperate, and his last few attempts at acquiring reinforcements had been ignored. Some excuse about being needed elsewhere more. So humans it was. Maybe he would luck out and they would all be killed off quickly. The next missive from command had another surprise. Colonel Tanet Mockney was expecting a few squads at most, given how stretched things were, and he had made the billeting arrangements as such. Apparently, command had seen fit to bless him with a full 3 platoons worth of humans. One or more of his illustrious peers must have had the sense to refuse the reinforcements, so now his own request could be fulfilled. Just bloody brilliant. Now the cunning plan to place the humans on the front line away from his command post would not work. There would be too many of them around to keep them from his little slice of contribution to the war. Oh, and they were sending an advance group with the next supply run, according to command, to assess the situation on the ground. Yeah, right. More like displace the proper soldiers from the field canteen and cause other disruptions. At least he could assess them for himself. Take their measure, brutes or not, they could do him the favor of taking some of the enemy down with them. Then his veteran regulars could just mop up the foe afterwards. Hopefully. It took all of his self-control to not visibly fume as he was introduced to the human advance squad. They gave his rank a proper respect it deserved and the impression of capable and experienced troops. They showed discipline and order despite their mismatched weapons and gear. The squad even accepted their billets at the far end of the section with less than the usual grumblings his own soldiers would make. However, it turned out that humans apparently practice mixed species units, and none of the advance squad were biological humans. When asked, Colonel Tanet Mockney found out that they weren't human auxiliary forces, but adopted and incorporated mismatch of troopers who had been left behind for dead, recruited vengeful civilians from previous theaters of conflict, and even a former ship mascot. So much for evaluating the humans in advance. He would just have to shoot from the hip when dealing with them when they arrived, although maybe he was underestimating their cunning. The humans did send an advance group for less intimidating beings to make introductions after all. Was it to soften their landing in the established war zone, or soften him up to humans? Eventually the rest of the promised reinforcements arrived, fresh from transit and ready to take the fight to the enemy at the colonel's command. They had line troopers and their own internal command structure. They had weapon specialists and exotic man-portable heavy weapons. They had medical support and separate supplies, enough for a month and more in the field. And they had every species Colonel Tenetnet Mockney knew of their ranks, and even a few he didn't recognize. Despite the chaos of the hasty and disorganized deployment, the ranking officers presented himself to the colonel, one Major Smith. The Major was a gruff, scarred individual who didn't quite line up with Tenetnet Mockney's expectations, mostly because he was unfamiliar rodent-like species that barely reached his waist. Clearly not a human. In fact, most of the new arrivals didn't match the descriptions of humans. Suspicious. He voiced his surprise to the Major, who gave him a funny look in return. It turned out the humans were masters of improvisation, and unlike most, more than happy to fight alongside other species, adopting new cultures, weapons, tactics, and kin with ease. In fact, humans were so welcoming that Command almost always ended up sending out-of-place or under-strength units to bolster existing human forces. None of the new troopers were human. The last human of the original forces had been killed decades ago. Command never disbanded them due to the regular intake of transfers and battlefield adoptions, keeping their numbers near full. None of the human platoons could recall ever having seen a human in the flesh. Humans, the only species to suffer 120% battlefield casualties, and still went up to 90% readiness for their next deployment. No wonder the pen pushers in high command love us. End of story. Story number 2. Humans have demons inside of them, but that's not the scary part. Written by Slow AD 2584. The large, muscular, draconian crewmate, Kliztuk, nervously pinged the door. Is this the, ship security and crewmate resource department? I've never been in this part of the ship before. He certainly hadn't. Klizkut could barely fit in the passages or turbo lifts of the upper decks of the ship. He was a valued deckhand, a valuable crewmate, due to his massive strength and ability to haul heavy machinery and cargo by hand, or, in his case, serrated scything talons. But despite his size and power, Gliztik was looking strange, wide-eyed and, haunted, if you could believe it.
Why, yes, valued crewmate. This is the crewmate resource department,
the cultured, feathered avian crewmate Bert said, with a concerned tilt to her vibrantly plumed head.
Oh my, is everything okay? You seem troubled. Please, come in, be comfortable. This is a safe place to talk,
She felt awkward, having just realized how ridiculous the routine line sounded. Like all valued deckhands, Gliztik was a Deathworlder, a fearsome apex predator that survived and thrived technologically upon a deadly world, with unmatched power and toughness. Where could he possibly ever not be safe?
What seems to be the problem? To compel you to seek us?
She was growing alarmed at what could possibly make such a terrifying death monster quite so unapologetically skittish. It's, now, don't tell him about it, but it's valued deckhand human Cole. He said something, that terrified me.
Oh, human crewmate Cole.
That went a long way towards explaining this. The humans were also Deathworld valued deckhands, but you couldn't really tell by seeing one. They were soft, squishy meat and water bags propped up by calcium endoskeleton. But wow, were they strong. The Deathworld Earth is a high-gravity, dihydromonoxide and free molecular oxygen world, if you can even imagine that. With a fearsomely competitive oxygen phosphate, turbocharged microbial and animal biosphere. Even a good number of the plants are more predatory and competitive than any would presume that they had any right to be. Truly awful. But human crewmates were more notable for their continually validated masterful tool use. What they could do with a crowbar or a hammer was truly incredible. Maybe it was something to do with this.
Did, crewmate Cole threaten to torque you with a tool or something?
She wasn't certain that she was using the mechanical terms correctly, but she bobbed her head, encouraging Tliztik with her huge teal eyes. The large draconian was distracted and vision far away. No, nothing like that. Human crewmate Cole is the nicest guy. I've just,
It's okay. This report is completely confidential and may have vital details this ship may need to be aware of.
She glanced up at the multiphasic sensor of the ship's AI, commonly referred to just as the ship, as there really was no practical difference between the two. Okay, well, Cole just did something that really scared me. After banging his a funny bone in the cargo bay the other day, seeing him stomp around in circles didn't make it seem very funny, though. I don't know why they call it that.
Oh, did he threaten to harm anyone, or the ship?
What? No, nothing like that. Cole wouldn't hurt a Patagonian spacefly, but he growled something as he rubbed his elbow, quietly like, "Is now the time? Is this how we begin?" He didn't think I heard it, but I absolutely did. There are some sets of words you don't just let slip by unnoticed. That's a Deathworlder thing. You may not,
I am familiar with the concept. In my line of work, proceed, please.
It nagging me the rest of the early shift, so I decided to ask Cole about it during the lunch break. He said it was his demon. A demon inside of his mind, maybe his soul.
Oh my! I don't think that was ever mentioned in his psych profile. What does this demon do?
As we talked, he explained that it was an intrusive thought, the quiet rage at injustices trickling at the edge of his eyes. Wants to burn the crappy, stupid universe, rip and tear everything that sucks, kill, maim, burn, all of the typical things. He says that they aren't really very imaginative.
Oh, well, that is certainly not acceptable behavior for a valued...
What? No, I keep telling you, Cole is absolutely the nicest guy. He never does any of that, not even close.
I'm confused. Then what alarmed you so strongly, if not the literal demon inside of him?
It was what he said next when I asked him why he never acted that way. He said he got the idea from an old RPG supplement book from his childhood, and he said that the demon never gets to do what he wants. The large shoulders of the mighty draconian shuddered, and in a sudden deadpan voice, each word its own sentence, a calm but unstoppable hammer blow, he told me, "It's a tower of iron will, caging that demon, shackled to the wall with the coldest metaphorical iron, made from the death note of a proud and defiant primordial star." The room sat silent for a tiny bit after this revelation. He then snapped out of his little trance and then told me there was a golden key in there as well, just in case there was ever time to just uncork the genie and go whole hog, whatever that means. Crewmate Bird tapped her beak with her notation stylus.
So, your issue is what's with what? If not the demon, then perhaps the genie cork, was it? Or was it the golden key that apparently unlocks it? Or maybe the hog? Help me to understand, please. Your Deathworlder insight is greatly valued.
No, none of that. It's just that he remains the nicest, most considerate guy. Knowing what I know now, I don't think I can work with him anymore.
Yes, clearly. But why exactly?
The will, the cast iron titanic will, keeping the demon down with such a casual effort. It's heavy. I feel suppressed and, how do I explain this? About to be buried under a glacier by it, just working next to it all day, chatting and smiling and joking, with all of the iron tower looming over us both. Just behind his smiling and friendly eyes, I can almost feel its mash. Can almost see its, shadow, I guess. I mean, look at me. I'm starting to splatter in poetry and something here. Crewmate Bird gulped dryly, finally beginning to comprehend humanity. Such a growing catalogue of hidden horrors. But yeah, the golden key being handy nearby, Didn't help either. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, Dragzoon WRE, Holly Sister, Ambrose Cattell, and Quantum Wednesday. Thank you very much.